Do you love Hyundai and Apple? Well, this video is for you. Do you hate Apple? Yeah, perhaps watch something else instead. So, two of my favourite companies in the whole world are Apple and Hyundai. Apple, because I've been using Apple stuff all my life. I mean, my house is practically sponsored by Apple gear. I mean, everything is Apple. So, Apple, I've lived with them and I love them up to a point. And Hyundai, because I just think everything that they're doing is really exciting, and in the EV space, I think they're the ones to watch, other than Tesla, of course. So I was particularly interested when today I saw a news article on BBC News, also reported everywhere else, that Hyundai and Apple are sitting in a tree, KISSING. But it was an interesting thing. So when I first looked at the article, it said Apple are working with Hyundai, and it was fairly sure about it, and then it changed to Hyundai's confusion over Apple electric car tie-up. And I'll just read it very quickly. Hyundai has sparked confusion over a possible electric car tie-up with Apple. The South Korean car company initially said it was in the early stage of talks with the iPhone maker about a possible electric car partnership, but hours later it backtracked and said it was talking with a number of potential partners without naming Apple. And then it goes on and on. Anyway. So the interesting thing about this, well, it's interesting for a number of reasons. It's interesting that Hyundai backtracked on their announcement. Companies do sometimes announce things with Apple before Apple wants them to. I mean, generally Apple don't want anyone to announce anything until they do themselves. So if you see a company backtrack, that's actually quite a good sign, because it means they probably are talking to Apple, and someone's probably just lost their job because they leaked it. Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, I think he's quite a pragmatic guy, and I don't think he's going to scupper the deal just because Hyundai have maybe announced it when they shouldn't. Well, here's why I think it's a really good deal. So firstly, why would Apple want to do an Apple car? Well, the stakes are huge at the moment. So, what's the most exciting thing in the technology space at the moment? You'd have to argue it's electric cars, and you don't get any more exciting or even as good as Tesla really in that space. Tesla are like a software company really that happen to make cars. So it would be interesting with Apple to get into this space. Apple are pretty unparalleled in the way that they stitch everything together. The software and hardware is both fantastic. And because they control the hardware, it makes the software even better. A good example of this really is the iPhone, because it's in terms of speed, it's far better than the Android phones. Apple Silicon is pretty amazing, and of course it's now in the Mac. This Mac Mini I've got here is an M1 Mac Mini, and it's unbelievably fast. It's also very buggy, to be honest, but it's unbelievably fast. So of course Apple want to get into the car space because it's a cool place to be, especially as they're in Silicon Valley, and Tesla's in Silicon Valley. It would make sense, and it would be interesting to see Apple and Tesla compete, because they will both, the competition will make everything much better. So anyway, let's talk about Apple. When you look back at the iPhone, what happened, right? The iPhone was transformative. The whole industry, it was a wake-up call for the whole industry. The interesting thing now is that Tesla have done what Apple did, really. So Tesla have been the disruptors. Tesla have come in, and they've shown the world that you can make electric cars attractive, you can make a decent profit on them, and they're far beyond. I mean, if you look at the inside of a Tesla, use the infotainment system, the navigation, all that, it's far beyond anything else. The closest you get actually is Polestar and the Volvo, and that's because they're using Google's operating system. That's an operating system that effectively controls the car and the infotainment. And that's why Apple want to do a car, or it's why they want to get in the space, because otherwise Google's OS is going to appear everywhere in all the cars. At the moment, as I say, just Volvo and Polestar, effectively the same company really, just they're using them. But soon we'll see Google crop up all over the place. Now Apple need a piece of that pie. They don't want to be locked out in the car space, because once you get a car using one operating system, it's probably not going to be very easy for them to change to another. So Apple need to get in there. So here's what I think is going to happen. I think the report is probably correct that they're working with Hyundai or talking to them, but I think that's further down the line in terms of actually making a car. What will happen first, I think, is that Apple have probably developed carOS, I imagine they'll call it. And that will be something that runs on Apple Silicon. Apple Silicon is fantastic. It's what the iPhones have got. It's what the new Macs have got, and it's very fast. It's pretty amazing, really, the speed. So that's what I think is going to happen. First of all, I reckon maybe this year we'll get an announcement, and it will be that Apple are releasing carOS, and they'll release, and then they'll talk about their partners. There is precedent for this. A long time ago, Apple worked with Motorola on Rocker, which was an iTunes phone. Everyone said it was awful when it came out, and it was. And then, of course, a few years later, you have the iPhone, which came out, and everyone said it was amazing. But the Rocker perhaps was an important little first step into the industry for Apple. So sometimes they do work with another company, and ordinarily it's probably not good for them. I don't think they're the kind of company that work well with others. But they are starting to get a bit better. I mean, there is a rumour that Apple Music will appear on Teslas. Apple are already partnering with BMW with the car key, Apple Car Key they call it, which is like a virtual car key where you've got your iPhone and it'll unlock your BMW. And I imagine BMW will be a natural partner as well for the operating system. But we'll see. But I think for the moment it'll be Hyundai, and perhaps by extension Kia, because Hyundai and Kia are the same sort of company. Software is hard. Look at Volkswagen. They're really struggling at the moment with their ID3 and 4. The software is what lets it down more than anything else. Look at Tesla. Making a car is hard. They've got the software pretty perfect, you could argue, but Teslas aren't very reliable. Bits fall off and stuff. So there's a possibility for Apple to really disrupt the space in terms of getting the software and hardware fantastic. But I think they're not going to tackle a car until battery prices come down to such a point where Apple can make a disgusting profit on it, like they do with everything else. So I think until then, I think we're going to get carOS. And I think it's going to appear in Hyundai first, and Kia, and maybe BMW and a few others. But I think that's what has to happen. Now, the bad thing about this is that you could argue that Siri is not very good, and Apple Maps isn't great. And in fact, I did run out of charge on the motorway once because Apple Maps sent me in the wrong direction. So I'm no lover of Siri or Apple Maps, and in fact, we spend more time arguing with Siri on our HomePod that we have here than we do actually playing any music. So I'm not like enthralled by the idea of having that in the car, but hey, it's probably better than a car manufacturer's standard stuff that they would have. A lot of people don't trust Google at all, so you could argue that having Apple in the car is probably better because Apple, you're not the product in the same way that you are with Google. A lot of people are probably wondering, will Android Auto work on any Apple car? Well, I think it will, because they're not going to cut out over half the market. I don't think they're going to say you need an iPhone to have an Apple car. Certainly not if they're working with Hyundai on an operating system or something. So I think Android Auto, I think, will probably still work. Apple have had hundreds and hundreds of people working in their car, on their car project called Project Titan, for a long time. I think working on all the self-driving stuff. So I think an operating system from Apple, it won't just be the infotainment system. I think it's going to be the whole thing, self-driving, the whole lot. And the manufacturers, I think, are going to need that kind of level of integration to compete with Tesla. If it means working with Apple, that will be something they'll do, I think. It's a bit strange for Apple, because Apple aren't historically the kind of company that work with other people. But they will if it gets them to where they want to be. They'll want their carOS on as many cars as possible because they'll want to collect the data, just have Tesla have been for years and years and years. One thing that would have been interesting would be Apple linking up with Tesla. But given that Elon Musk had recently said that Tim Cook wouldn't even take a meeting with him, because apparently Apple didn't want to buy Tesla when it was offered to them. But I still don't see that happening anyway. I think maybe the two companies will stay pretty separate. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and I'm really excited. I'm really excited anyway, because I think Apple are a very good company. They have their issues, but they're a very good company, and Hyundai make amazing cars. Their powertrain is fantastic. Their latest E-GMP platform is going to be amazing as well. Have a look at the video if you haven't seen it already about that. So I think put all that together, and I think it's going to be very exciting. And yes, I think an announcement this year about carOS from Apple, and I think we'll start to see it maybe next year. It would be great to see. It would be great to see it this year, but I don't think that's going to happen. So I'd love to hear what you think anyway. And if you have any questions, look, I don't know anything. I'm just someone who's a big fan of Hyundai and Apple. So take whatever I'm saying with a pinch of salt. Apple and Tesla are the kind of companies that people love to hate. So I'm going to get quite a few comments on this video about, oh, I'm never buying a car with Apple in it, and things like that. But, you know, a lot of people wouldn't buy a car with Google in it either. So I think it's good to have choice, and I think the industry will benefit, and we'll all benefit from Apple having some sort of presence in the industry. So anyway, I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know, and please subscribe and press that bell icon to be notified of other videos. And I look forward to speaking to you very soon. Bye for now.